Elizabeth pushed the door shut behind her and leaned up against the wood, overwhelmed with astonishment and wonder. She had expected the walled garden to be laid out with beds of flowers, perhaps with trees and fountains interspersed. Instead, the entire area, which appeared to be close to an acre in size, seemed more like a scene in an exotic painting. In the center of the plot was a group of trees, each at least 20 feet high, under which numerous birds wandered to and fro, all large, some with blue bellies and a cornucopia of green, yellow, and blue iridescent feathers trailing behind them. Several of the winged creatures turned their heads towards her and began trilling and chirping, and the two birds closest to her retreated a few feet, obviously nervous about her presence. "Who are you?" a voice demanded sharply from her left. Startled, Elizabeth turned and observed a girl of some 15 or 16 summers standing near her. The young woman was dressed in a simple blue gown, which was rather too big for her, with an equally simple straw hat over her blonde locks, and she wore dirty half-boots on her large feet. "I'm a guest at Pemberley as of a few hours ago," Elizabeth said coolly, arching one eyebrow in a challenging manner. She was not accustomed to peremptory challenges from the lower classes. "Ah, are you Miss Bennet or Mrs. Bingley?" the girl asked, stepping closer, her blue eyes now focused on the cross pendant around Elizabeth's neck. "I am Miss Bennet," Elizabeth answered, in some confusion. It seemed unlikely that a servant girl who worked outside would know either her or her sister's name. Could this be an indigent cousin of the Darcys, or something of the sort? "Do you like birds, Miss Bennet?" the girl asked, gesturing toward the center of the garden. Elizabeth turned back to viewing the strutting inhabitants of the garden and heaved a sigh of ecstasy. Birds hardly seemed the correct description for the wonderful creatures bobbing and trilling and murmuring within the stone walls of the garden. "I am fond of doves and robins, and rather afraid of roosters because one pecked me as a child," Elizabeth said. "But I've never seen anything like this in all my life. Surely these are peacocks?" "The males are peacocks," the young woman said reprovingly. "The females are known as peahens, and their young are peachicks. Altogether they are known as peafowl." "I suppose that makes sense," Elizabeth mused, her eyes focusing on a particularly handsome bird that was standing some yards away, its blue and green feathers rising high above its sleek, plump body. "Without a doubt, this is astonishing. I've seen pictures of peacocks in books, but to see them in real life, they are more beautiful than I imagined." "You truly like them?" the girl asked in a suspicious voice, causing Elizabeth to turn and regard her with surprise. "I do," she said. "Truly, I cannot imagine anyone who would not like them. They are absolutely beautiful." "My Aunt Catherine does not," the maiden responded with a scowl. "She says that they are noisy and useless, and that it is idiotic of me to spend so much time tending to my peafowl when I ought to be learning to speak French and design tables. I have no interest in other languages, and we have plenty of tables at Pemberley, but that does not seem to matter to my aunt." Elizabeth's heart beat faster at these words, and she asked, "Your aunt? Could you be referring to Lady Catherine de Bourgh?" "Yes," the girl said, frowning even more hideously. "Do you know her?" "I do not know her well, of course, but I met her when I was visiting a friend in Kent a few months ago. But if Lady Catherine is your aunt, you must be Miss Georgiana Darcy?" This provoked a look of surprise, and the girl said, "Yes, I am Miss Darcy." Elizabeth took a startled step backwards and said hastily, "I must apologize for this intrusion. I regret that... Oh, this is terribly awkward." "Why?" Miss Darcy asked, now looking perturbed. "I ought not to have come here without your permission, or Mr. Darcy's, and we have not been properly introduced by your brother." "I find formal introductions most tedious," Miss Darcy stated, turning her face to peer at her birds. "Furthermore, you have my permission to observe the peafowl so long as I am here with you. Some of them are timid and others are aggressive, and it would not be safe for you or the birds to be here without my oversight. Would you like to visit the peafowl again?" "Very much," Elizabeth said warmly. "They are astonishing, Miss Darcy.